The biggest game in the TVC Ohio happened tonight when the Meigs Marauders hosted the Alexander Spartans. In the TVC Hawking, the Belpre Golden Eagles took on the Waterford Wildcats, with one team possibly making the playoffs. And for Fan of the Week, I made my way out to Bloom Carroll for their game against Fairfield Union. And it's all up next. It's time to kick off Week 10, and we've got a lot of ground to cover. I'm your host, Justin Holbrook. Just 2 months ago, we were kicking off another season of football, and now here we are with the clock hitting 0 on another regular season. Tonight's games were the last chance for teams to prove not only if they should be in the playoffs, but what seeding they deserve. The TVC Hawking has had their fair share of teams gunning for one of those playoff spots, and tonight, Kelsey Steele was right there for the clash between Belpre and Waterford.
A lot of riding on tonight's final, Justin. A win for Waterford gives them a chance to see the postseason, but a win for Belpre gives the Golden Eagles a chance to win a home playoff game for the first time since 1955. And Golden Eagles locked and loaded in the pregame, but a slow start dug them a hole early. Waterford stuns everyone in Ralph Holder Stadium, runs back the opening kickoff 60 yards. 6-0 start for them. Belpre punts, and Waterford's Tyler McCutcheon takes it 70 yards down the left sideline. 2-yard pass extends their lead to 12. And Belpre finally finds their mojo. Tavian Miller releases a beauty to Cole Counts. 2 plays later, they edge the gap to 6. Dejon Bedgood turns what easily could have been a short gain here to a 40-yard touchdown run. A tied ball game in Belpre. So Coach Adams gives Miller the go-ahead to pull the trigger here. 31 yards. Bedgood gonna put his athleticism on full display tonight. Somehow stays on his feet. 19-12 Belpre, and they don't let up. Miller again, this time to Josh Moore, grabs a TD by a pinky. And now Waterford finally answers 33 straight from Belpre. Braden Belleville releases this one, and 3 plays later tacks on another TD. So who better to answer than Dejon Bedgood himself? Right before the half, Bedgood flies down the sideline for a 60-yard pickup. Nothing comes of it. 33-25 at the half. Golden Eagles go on to win this one, 53-32. What a night for Dejon Bedgood and that offensive unit for Belpre.
Well, that's for sure. A lot of offensive numbers tonight on both sides, especially for Belpre.
And a lot of credit goes to those Golden Eagles. Once they got their early game jitters under control, it became a totally different ball game. Waterford's defense gave up more points tonight than they have all season, which is really a testament to Coach Adams and his offensive unit. When I spoke to Coach Tucker earlier this week, he assured me that his defense was one of the elements his team has not had to worry about all year long. Tonight, it was a bit of a different story. That D-line gave Tavian Miller little to worry about, and in return gave him a lot to work with. He was able to utilize his go-to guys like Tajay Reams, who was huge on the ground. To make matters worse, Dejon Bedgood was an absolute stud tonight. Waterford could not contain his athleticism. And if Bedgood is let loose, the score will skyrocket, and that is exactly what happened tonight.
And what a time to have a guy like Dejon Bedgood when you're heading into Week 11.
You can say that again, Justin. With their win tonight, Belpre is now locked in for the postseason. Not only that, they secure that home playoff game as well, something Coach Adams and his boys have been very vocal about all year long. Offensively, if they unload the guys like Bedgood and Reams in that run in action, they'll be just fine. My only concern sits on the other side of the ball. If you cannot give up 32 points in the playoffs and come away with a win. They need to clean up the holdings and unnecessary penalties. If they do that, they'll be just fine.
Well, they definitely need to clean that up before the playoffs. And since the playoffs are just a week away, now is the perfect time to tweet at us with how far you think your team will make it in the postseason. And don't forget to give Gridiron Glory a like on Facebook for playoff coverage and game previews of your favorite team. It may be the first year we've used Snapchat on this show, but it didn't take long for it to catch on. And later in the show, Andrew Homan will be bringing you the 2 best to close out the regular season. Another game that featured 2 teams that needed wins tonight to keep their postseason hopes alive was the clash between Miller and South Gallia. And Sean, you were at that game. The stakes couldn't have been higher.
Yeah, before tonight, Justin, Miller held the 8th and final playoff spot in Region 25, and a win would have secured their playoff berth. South Gallia, on the other hand, held the 10th spot, and they needed some outside help, but no matter what, the Rebels needed this win. Miller was pumped up coming out of the locker room with the chance to make the playoffs for the first time since the year 2000. But it was South Gallia who came out guns a-blazing. The Rebels scored on their first 2 possessions to go up 14-0 early on, and they certainly didn't look back from there, claiming the 61-26 victory.
So the South Gallia offense had no problems. What slowed Miller down so much?
Well, with Miller, all of it comes down to running back Cody McGinnis on offense. He struggled mightily last game and was visibly hobbled at points tonight. So without him playing well, South Gallia really just wasn't able to South Gallia was able to run away with it from there. And this, in all likelihood, marks the end of Miller's season. Well, the Rebels have now won 4 straight season finales. South Gallia has a really complicated road to make the postseason for sure, but they certainly took care of their business tonight, and we'll know soon enough if the Rebels will be dancing their way into their first playoff game since 2011.
Well, like you said, Sean, we're going to see if they can make the playoffs. It was a great game for them. Thanks a lot. Now, Bloom Carroll has outscored their opponents 65-7 over the last 2 weeks. Hopes of making the playoffs were slipping away, which is why the Bulldogs fans were out in full force for tonight's game against Fairfield Union. The Mid-State League has been one of the toughest conferences all season long, and tonight promised to be another great game between Fairfield Union and Bloom Carroll. Josh Vermillion was at that game, so Josh, tell me what it was like in this one.
Well, you know, Bloom Carroll came into this game absolutely needing a win, but to keep their postseason hopes alive after 2 straight losses put them in 9th, 1 spot out of the playoffs. And, you know, it was their final home game of the season tonight, so those seniors were fired up, and these cheerleaders were getting the crowd fired up as well. But Bloom Carroll, they started off with a little bit of a surprise, an onside kick on the opening kickoff, and Bloom Carroll would recover at the 50-yard line, setting them up with the first possession of the game. And on their very first play, Seth Paskey takes off up the middle, 50 yards into the end zone, 7-0, just 14 seconds into this one, Justin.
So that was a really big play for them right there.
Yeah, and the excitement definitely did not stop there. On Fairfield Union's very first play, they pull out some trickery of their own. Ray Petros takes the pitch, then airs out a 42-yard bomb to Jacob Figgins, but just a couple of plays later, Braden Heston takes the handoff, and it looks like he's going to rumble into the end zone, but he fumbles the ball at the 1-yard line, and Bloom Carroll recovers that one in the end zone. And after the Bulldogs march down the field, Justin Harvey fakes the handoff and takes off for a 19-yard touchdown, 14-0 Bloom Carroll. And the Falcons, they punctuate a long drive with this 12-yard touchdown pass from Will Young to Colin Woodside, 14-7. And after 2 3-and-outs, Fairfield Union's punt is blocked, and Dylan Jude scoops up the ball and takes it into the end zone to put Bloom Carroll up 20-7. And the Bulldog offense just kept on rolling as they went on to win this one 40-20. The trio of Dylan Jude, Justin Harvey, and Seth Paskey were unstoppable as they combined for 5 touchdowns on the ground tonight.
So a high-scoring game by Bloom Carroll. What were they doing right on the offensive side of the ball?
Well, I talked to Coach Bartholomew earlier in the week, and he talked about how his team had been moving the ball, but they hadn't been able to finish off drives. But they had absolutely no problems with that tonight. Coach Bartholomew had a great game plan, and his offense was absolutely on fire. They are known for being fast-paced, and tonight they were moving the ball with ease. The most impressive thing was the balance they showed. Both Justin Harvey and Seth Paskey showed that they have dual threat ability when they lined up at quarterback, and Dylan Jude was hitting the holes hard and running all over the Falcons.
And on the other hand, Fairfield Union didn't have much success.
Well, you know, they looked strong early on, but that offense really died out as the first half wore on. Early in the first, Braden Heston was bullying his way for first downs, and Will Young was finding open receivers down the field, but Bloom Carroll adjusted well and completely shut the Falcons down. It looked like the offensive line got worn down, and the Bulldogs were in complete control throughout this one.
Josh, you mentioned that Bloom Carroll needed this win. Did they do enough to get into the playoffs?
Well, they certainly looked like a playoff team tonight as they dominated in every aspect of the game. But Meadowbrook, the 8th place team, also won tonight, and we won't know until Sunday. But even if this is the end for the Bulldogs, they finished off their regular season with a dominant win. They have a lot of underclassmen on that team that are just now hitting their stride, so expect this team to keep improving moving forward, whether that be into the playoffs or next season.
Well, I'm looking forward to see if they can make the playoffs. Josh, thanks a lot. And like I mentioned before, the Bulldog fans were ready for this game, and they were out in full force against Fairfield Union, just like Josh said. So I'm out here in Bloom Carroll trying to find my next fan of the week, and if you can't tell by that sign, these Bulldogs are crazy about their team. Oh, yeah! What's the score going to be for this game? 49-0. We're out here in Bloom, Carroll for our Fan of the Week, and the Bulldogs are looking to get in the playoffs, and I'm out here with Cole, and he is the Bulldogs' biggest fan, so he's our next Fan of the Week. The biggest game of the TVC Ohio was tonight. The Alexander Spartans were taking on the Meigs Marauders. Alexander already had a share of the TVC Ohio title, but the Marauders were looking to tie it up. If they won this game, it would be a share for the TVC Ohio top spot. And tonight's the night. I said it on last week's show, and it's finally here. After making it through 2 days and battling for 10 straight weeks, we've narrowed down to the list to 5. At the end of tonight's show, I'll be joined on desk by Nick Camiotti, who will be revealing our Player of the Year finalists. So between now and the end of the show, tweet at us with who you think should be on our list. Sheridan had the chance 2 weeks ago to grab a share of the MVL title, but their loss to Tri-Valley ended those hopes. Megan Stamford joins us now live from Jim Rockwell Stadium. So Megan, Sheridan tried to keep their postseason hopes alive.
Yeah, Justin, there wasn't a whole lot on the line for New Lexington since they were out of playoff contention, but Sheridan was fighting for their playoff lives as they sat ranked number 11 in their respective region. And New Lex was pumped for their senior night, running through that banner, and the moms were releasing balloons, and they came out hot. Bradley Clapper looking and finds Austin Ratliff for a 20-yard reception, and that would set up this next play. Clapper again going through the air. He finds Dimitri Williams in the back of the end zone. Panthers go up 7-0 with 7 minutes remaining in the first quarter. And it would take Sheridan a while to get anything going for themselves on offense. But Trevor Davison here breaks free and starts the scoring for the Generals. 37-yard touchdown, and we're tied 7-7 with 7 minutes left in the half. And 2 Sheridan possessions later, the Generals were driving, but Derek Gross fumbles the ball. Panthers recover just before the half, but couldn't capitalize, so 7-7 at the half. But Bradley Clapper punches it in here converts a 4th and 1 here to keep the Panther drive alive early in the fourth quarter. And then they were able to find the end zone on this play. To tie the score up 14-14, and that would be the score at the end of regulation.
So this game was all tied at 14 at the end of regulation. Megan, take me through what happened in overtime.
Justin, this game went into triple overtime. Definitely one of the most exciting NVL games I've seen in a long time. New Lexington got the ball to start, and after a 20-yard reception by Willis, they missed a field goal to turn it back over to Sheridan. Sheridan couldn't find the end zone on their possession either, and it ended with a missed field goal. So to double overtime we go. Sheridan won the coin toss and got first possession, but couldn't get anything going, and then fumbles, and New Lexington recovers. New Lex looks sloppy on their next possession, and guess what? Clapper throws an interception. 2 overtimes down, 1 more to go. Panthers win the coin toss this time, but turn it over on downs. 3 plays later, Dylan Dupler puts the game away and runs it in from 17 yards out, so the Generals win this thriller 20-14.
So what a great game, Megan. New Lex had so many chances to put the Generals away. Why couldn't they capitalize on those opportunities and come away with the win?
Justin, the same issues that have plagued New Lex all season plagued them again tonight. They would move the ball down the field, but they just couldn't find the end zone. Their drives would either stall from holding or false start penalties or turnovers, whether it be fumbles or interceptions. Their defense did a great job of shutting down Sheridan's playmakers in Derek Gross, Dylan Dupler, and Trevor Davison, except for that 1 touchdown.
So that's a great win for Sheridan. We'll see if they can make the playoffs. And it's been a couple weeks since we last heard from our online host, Andrew Homan. But don't worry, he's back live in the newsroom. And Andrew, between finding the tweets and Snapchats of the week, we've been keeping you pretty busy.
You're right, Justin. I've been busy just trying to keep up with so many great tweets this week. Our first tweet of the week is going to come from Chris Wells, who told us about the things that go bump in the night. The Ironman faithful were pumped for their stadium-wide blackout and their 2nd consecutive SEOAL championship. Evan Shaw might have been even more excited tonight, though. It's time my Marauders earn another one of these, don't you think? You know, Chris, that's an awesome keychain, but it looks like you're going to have to wait another year after the Marauders' 35-26 loss to Alexander tonight. Now over to Snapchat, it's no surprise that South Gallia was on point. The duo of Landon and Kane Hutchinson were ready for game day and got a huge 61-26 win over Miller. The Logan Locos earned our second Snapchat of the week with this priceless selfie. The Logan student section got hyped up with a powder toss before the game against Warren, and if you want to see that video, go check it out on the Logan Locos Twitter account. Both Logan and South Gallia are on the verge of the playoffs, and both did their part to play in Week 11. Now that the regular season is done, it's the most important time to visit our website. The OHSAA will release next week's playoff games Sunday, and you can find who your team is playing and what seed they are at woub.org/gridiron. Now that the playoffs are here, we're looking at some possible Saturday games on the horizon, and we will be there. Just head over to YouTube and subscribe to the WOUB PBS page so that you can find those video recaps and all things Gridiron. But before the playoffs, we have a lot to get to tonight, so I'll toss it back to you, Justin.
Thanks a lot, Andrew. The fight for the Doc Chrono Trophy between Athens and Nelsonville-York may not have the build-up that it did a year ago, but that doesn't diminish the importance. Clay Benjamin was in the Plains tonight, and Clay, bragging rights were definitely on the line.
Justin, both teams are 6-12 coming into tonight, and with no playoffs on the horizon, both of these teams got to leave it all on the field tonight. The fight for the Doc Chrono Trophy was back, and these NY seniors have never beaten the Bulldogs during their career, and a win over Athens would be a great way to go out, but Justin, Zakiah Saltzman took over.
Clay, he really struggled against River Valley last week. What was different tonight?
It seemed like he wanted to put that performance from last week behind him, and he did that tonight. He wanted the ball on every play, and when he got it, the Buckeyes couldn't stop him. He is a powerful back, and he just would not go down, and he finished the night with 361 yards rushing and 5 touchdowns. 3 of his touchdowns were on plays of 36 yards or more. Saltzman had 251 yards in the first half, and that pushed him over the 2,000 mark for the season. Justin, he wasn't on our GG Player of the Year watch list, but with his performances in the later part of the season, he is definitely in the conversation now.
Well, I have to say so. Over 2,000 yards rushing, Saltzman was the man tonight, but NY, they had a few key players missing.
That's right. Noah Andrews and Alex Mount missed the game night due to injuries, and Hunter Edwards took a hard hit late in the second quarter and did not play in the second half. And at that point, NY were fighting an uphill battle, and with all 3 of their star players missing, it didn't make it any easier. And Athens scored 36 unanswered points to cruise to a 50-14 win and hold on to the Doc Chrono Trophy.
So another Athens win over NY. It was a big win for the Bulldogs to close out the season. Clay, thanks a lot. Tonight's TVC Ohio showdown between Alexander and Meigs was for all the marbles, or rather just a share. The Spartans clinched a share of the crown back in Week 8. But with the win, the Marauders could take home their first title since 1998.
We'd still be setting school history.
We are willing to take whatever steps that need to be taken.
So this week's going to be a test.
It's all in our hands right now.
Patrick Klinger was out in Pomeroy tonight, and Patrick, tonight it was all on the line.
Yeah, it was, Justin, but behind all of that hype, this was actually a pretty tall test for the Meigs Marauders. Over the last 3 weeks, they've been giving up 44 points per contest, but Coach Bartram said that this is a new week and that his team would be ready. But they would have the privilege of taking on that man right there, Mason Chapman. He has been bonkers over the last couple of weeks, but, Meigs would get going first with a touchdown, 16-play touchdown drive, actually, but Chapman, he swings it out to A.J. Marks on their first drive, and he's off to the races for the 61-yard touchdown. 7-6, Alexander leads early, and that play really got Marks fired up because he's making plays on the defensive end. Cody Bartram rolling out, throws it up for grabs, and who is it? It's Marks coming down with that ball, trying to get some momentum going for the Spartans. Now let's fast forward to the second quarter. Cody Bartram, he is going to find his man Caleb Sheets over the middle on this one, going deep into Spartans territory, and on the next play, that set up Lane Collins. He's going to reach pay dirt, jumping into the end zone, giving Meigs the lead 14-7. Could they pull off this upset? Not a lot of people saw it coming, but Mason Chapman, he's got your answer. He's going in for the 23-yard score. He finished with 135 yards on the ground, and 5 total touchdowns. Deadlocked at 14 at the half, but it's Chapman again right at the end of the start of the third quarter with another 20-yard score, and Alexander, they would pull away and get this win 35-26.
So there are a lot of big hits and fourth quarter stops in that first half. Alexander kept Cody Bartram and Caleb Sheets under wraps, and the Marauders, they did a decent job with Mason Chapman. For the longest time, I wasn't sure who was going to come home with this win. But despite the loss, Meigs was out there playing with nothing to lose, Patrick.
Well, that's right. You know, Mike Bartram, he really called a lot of aggressive play calls in this one. You know, Meigs, they rolled the dice a lot on fourth down and some two-point conversions, and they even called 3 onside kicks. You know, some of them worked, some of them didn't, but, you know, eventually it was just the Spartans. They were just too much for them, and they come out with the outright championship.
Well, with that ninth win, Alexander ties a school record. It's been a huge turnaround from 2 years ago, ever since Penrod took over.
Well, that's right. You know, I talked to him earlier this week, and he told me that winning a conference championship was a 6-step process, you know, all the way back for that first conference game all the way to the end. You know, they had to win each game if they were going to come out on top. And tonight, they finished the job, and they are the outright champions. They're going to be hosting a playoff game next week in Week 11 in Albany. That's going to be one you're not going to want to miss.
So Alexander gets the win, but Patrick, this game was close for a really long time.
Yeah, it really was. For a long time, both teams really just fighting back and forth to get that momentum. But like I said, Mason Chapman, he just took over in around that second quarter. Like you said earlier, Meigs did a pretty solid job of keeping him under wraps in the first half. Only 58 rushing yards in the first half. That's pretty good for the defense that had been giving up 44 points per game. But in the second half, my goodness, the guy just went off. You couldn't tackle him. You couldn't bring him down. He had gaping holes from that offensive lineman. Those senior offensive linemen did a great job today, and that really helped them get this win, Justin.
So it was another great job by him and his offensive line. And I'm going to put you on the spot here. How far do you see Alexander making it in the playoffs, Pat?
Well, first of all, I'd like to say that I think they really needed a game like this, a close game like this, to really set them up for the playoffs. But I think they're going to be really competitive going forward, you know, with Chapman, that offense, and that defense who's just been they've played fantastic all season long. They're going to be a tough one to beat.
Now, you talked to Coach Penrod a lot this season. What has he done for this team to make them 9-1?
That's a tough question to ask. You know, it's just about the passion this guy brings to the table. You know, all week, if you guys just follow this guy on Facebook, he is just a hoot, man. I mean, he is always pumping his guys up. You know, before in the locker room and during the games, he's just yelling. This guy loses his voice every week, it seems. But you know, he's done a great job turning this program around in such a short time. He's just been very impressive, and I'm excited to see where this team can go.
Well, it's definitely working, and they won the TVC Ohio tonight. Patrick, thanks for the great work. And I know everyone has been used to the Glory15 hashtag, and we've had a lot of fun with it throughout the season. But it's time to shake things up. There's nothing better than Friday nights, and there's nothing quite like playoff football. The Gridiron represents memories made, blood shed, and tears spilled, all in the name of achieving glory. Share the memories you make during the remainder of the season by using our new hashtag, Glory Days. Don't forget to use this hashtag for all of your tweets and Snapchats so we can cherish these memories too. We're just a few moments away from revealing our 5 Player of the Year finalists. But before that, let's take a look at tonight's top plays. Over at top play number 3, we've got the always entertaining Belpre offense. It's a low snap to Tavian Miller, but he handles it and lets it fly. Dejan Bedgood, he comes up and makes the leaping catch, breaks a tackle mid-air, breaks another tackle, and dives into the end zone, 31-yard touchdown. Top play number 2, we have the Alexander Spartans. We saw Lucas Thompson make a big hit right here. He plows him. This one is Zach Helton that he laid the hit on, and that Alexander, they win the TVC Ohio. And here it is, top play of the night. Zach Helton, it's a perfect throw over to Josh Moore. He's able to make the spectacular fingertips catch, and he's pumped after that one. Nick Kimyati joins me now, and Nick, the regular season is finally over, so now we get to unveil our 5 Player of the Year finalists.
There were some familiar names that were on our preseason watch list for this award, but there are also a couple of surprise finalists that racked up impressive numbers this season. Our first finalist, probably one that everyone expected, Mr. Justice Jenkins of the Trimble Tomcats. He was my preseason favorite to win this award, and even with fewer weapons around him and a less experienced offensive line, Jenkins still had a monster year. He does a little bit of everything, but most impressively, He has accumulated 1,598 yards and 26 touchdowns rushing.
Justice Jenkins, he's back in our final round for the second straight season, now staying at the running back position. The second finalist made some noise in the MVL this year, Nick.
Chase Roberts of Meigsville is the heart of the Panther offense and a huge reason why they had another strong year. His 630 yards and 11 touchdowns might not jump off the page like Justice Jenkins' stats, but think about the kind of defenses he's facing week in and week out in the MVL. The most impressive number for Roberts is 7.9. When he touches the ball, he averages 7.9 yards per carry. He's also Meigsville's leading receiver with 6 touchdowns and 239 receiving yards this season.
All right, so the next name on the list is another familiar name, Logan's Lane Little. He's put up monster numbers for 2 straight years now.
And this year's numbers were far more impressive than a year ago. 1,917 passing yards with a stellar 27-5 touchdown to interception ratio. He has taken care of the ball all year, which is why the Chieftains have been so hard to slow down. And Logan's offense has been so efficient, he scores a touchdown once in every 7.7 pass attempts. Not many guys have that level of efficiency.
And Logan, they won again tonight. We'll see if they can make the playoffs after finishing 8-2. And most notably, he set Logan's single-season touchdown passing record with a 5-touchdown performance against Gallia Academy in Week 9. Now we move over to the TVC Ohio. Athens lost a lot this offseason, but Sakai Saltzman, he really helped to fill the void.
The monster numbers from an Athens Bulldog running back is becoming tradition. Saltzman has recorded 1,750 rushing yards and 32 touchdowns this year with a 7.8 yards per carry average. He's got that ideal combination of power and speed, forcing defenses to bring multiple tacklers to bring him down. His Player of the Year performance came against Vinton County in Week 5 when he got in the end zone 7 times.
So 7 touchdowns that game, and tonight he had another 5, plus
That's right.
He had over 2,000 yards rushing for the season. And now we're going to, not last but not least, we're staying in the TVC Ohio. Right down the road from Athens is Albany. Mason Chapman helped the Alexander Spartans become the new powerhouse of the conference.
He's a downhill rusher that tallied 1,022 yards and 17 touchdowns for the Spartan offense, but he was also one of the leaders of Alexander's stout defense. Through 9 games, the Spartan defense surrendered just 11.5 points per game with Chapman playing middle linebacker. He's the definition of a tough football player. And here's a fun fact. He put on 15 pounds of pure muscle throughout the season, so if he wasn't already hard to slow down, it's not getting any easier.
Well, it looks like that muscle's definitely helping out. And there's a few names we left off our list. Obviously, Hunter Sexton won the award last year, and some other notable guys. So can you talk about that for a little bit, Nick?
Well, Hunter Sexton, a good individual player, but better in combination with his running backs. Deserving to be on the list, but better as a combination. Cody McInnes as well for Miller deserves honorable mention.
And we talked about it. Mason Chapman, he had another 5-touchdown game. All these players deserving. Nick, thanks a lot. And for good measure, here's another look at the complete list for this season's Player of the Year finalists. You can find the link for where to vote on our Twitter or Facebook page, or you can vote right on our website. Now this year, we're going to determine the Player of the Year. It will be made up 50% of fan vote, and the other 50% will come from our staff here at Gridiron Glory. The polls are now open, so be sure to head over to our website and vote for your favorite player. Get your vote in, tell your friends to vote, and spread the word on Twitter by using the hashtag GGPOY. And as always, our Player of the Year will be announced on our finale episode, which is on November 20th. If your team is heading to the playoffs, be sure to keep an eye out for a preview of their first round game on our website. Now don't forget to start using the new hashtag Glory Days. And remember, there's nothing better than Friday nights and Gridiron Glory.